Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 7th, 2018. I'd like to start out the meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join me, please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for the benefit of those who may or may not have participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. 1, we will read the legal call to the meeting as published in the local newspaper. 2, the applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of the property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application, if there are any. 3, there will be clarifying questions from the Commissioners. 4, then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. 5, first, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and second, those who oppose the application will be invited to come forward and express their opinion. As this is a public hearing, it must be recorded. It's necessary for speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and address before addressing this commission. 6, the applicant is then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing in the regular meeting, at which time the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the commission and has a right to appeal in Superior Court if desired. 7, the decisions of the meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Tonight, the following Planning and Zoning Commissioners will be seated. We have Phil Johnson, we have Rich Meyer, Alan Brown, Josh Hirschman, I'm Frank DeAndrea, we have Dick Wallace, and we have Matthew Yorzinski. Our staff this evening, we have George Kroll, and we have our recording secretary, Lisa Piambino, and the videographer is Peter Schultz. So if the secretary could please read the legal notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on February 7th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. at the location being the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, in the Monunketuck Room on the second floor for the following purposes. John Redding, 6 Sleepy Hollow, map 89, lot 100-8, zone R7, special permit for a 936 square foot barn, 26 by 36 by 25, section 273-19. Guilford Yacht Club, 379 Whitfield Street, map 28, lot 11, zone MR1. Special permit, coastal area management and site plan, on-land placement and removal of dredged soil. Request 5-year permit for Article 8, earth removal operations, sections 273-19, sections 273-91, Article 9. Please forgive the pronunciation on this one. Boucher Deborah, 125 and 129 Water Street, map 32, lot 17, zone R3. Special permit for change in a non-conforming use. Internet child toddler consignment resales with some retail sales, sections 273-19. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communication will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, the 16th day of January 2018, Frank DeAndrea, Chairman.
21st, okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with the first public hearing. We have John Redding, 6 Sleepy Hollow.
For the record, I'm Mark Young, land surveyor with Waldo Associates. I'm representing John Redding, the owner of this property. This property shown on the map at 1 inch equals 20 feet. It's down off the end of Laurel Hollow Road, down the private driveway known as Sleepy Hollow Lane. Mr. Redding has fairly extensive grounds that are landscaped, extensively landscaped. and he does a very nice job. But he has a lot of equipment that he uses in his landscaping. He also maintains the private driveway known as Sleepy Hollow Lane as a courtesy to his neighbors, so he has equipment for that too. So he needs a place to store his equipment, and he also, I think his wife would like to have some horses. So the proposal is to build a barn down in this portion of the property. It would be accessed by a gravel surface driveway that would go along like this. That's right, this is a lawn area where the septic system is, and the rest is woods, and the wetland is shown in the light green. We do have a permit from the Wetlands Agency for a regulated activity to site the barn, and the closest point is about 70 feet from the wetland. We also have we've been granted a variance for the height of the barn. On this plan, the barn is shown, I'm not sure of the scale, but we were granted a 3-foot variance for the peak, which was over the 20-foot maximum height. And of course, the cupola is exempt. So we think that this barn will enhance the neighborhood. It's not visible from any of the neighbors. And in fact, the neighbors had no objection to the variance as requested, and was granted. So we think that this barn will enhance the property. It will fit in with Guilford's heritage as an agricultural community, and we think is consistent with the plan of community development.
How close is the barn to the next property?
Let's see. We've got, I believe it's 80 feet. Wait a minute. Let's see, there's the 50-foot building line, so that's about 80 feet to the property line. And again, this is a land trust down here. That's very extensive wooded area down here. The nearest house is probably this lot over here, which is it's over 400 feet to that house, and and even farther to the houses up here. And it's also the land trust to the west, and so there's no houses for miles that way.
There are a couple of letters here. There's one from Dennis Johnson, dated February 6th, yesterday. The applicant's proposed barn does not conflict with the location or function of the septic system or well currently existing on site. And then there's one from Kevin McGee, dated today. The applicant is proposing to install a 1,368 square foot horse barn at 6 Sleepy Hollow Road. Increased stormwater from the barn is shown to be treated by infiltration trenches. The regulated activity for the construction of the barn was approved with conditions by the Guilford Inland Wetlands Commission at its January 11, 2017 meeting. As part of the conditions of approval, the Wetlands Enforcement Officer is required to inspect erosion and sedimentation control measures prior to any site work. And you don't have any problems with?
That's fine. I think, as a matter of fact, we do show a silt fence, and the infiltration trenches are shown in the detail.
Okay, is there any other questions from the commissioners at this time? No. All good. Any questions from the public at this time? Anybody wishing at this time to speak in favor? Speak against? All right, then we're going to have this continue to mandatory second public hearing.
21st, I think.
It says 21st, right? 21st. Second. Right, but it's the 21st.
So
that's a Friday.
21st. Is that okay?
Okay.
Great, we're all
All right, we're all in agreement.
same page.
All in favor?
Aye. You got 3 different days in February.
I know, I just noticed that. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Okay, Guilford Yacht Club. The first one up is 379 Whitfield Street. This is the special permit for the CAM and site plan.
Wait, is this the first public hearing supposed to be continued
Yes,
to the 21st?
yes.
So I'll make a motion to continue that to the 21st.
We haven't opened.
Oh,
This is for
This is the dredging, right? Yeah, so we got to open, right?
the first public hearing is to be continued.
Right, we have to have the first public hearing.
I think, are they asking to continue?
No,
the
they're not
first
asking to
pub-
continue. Somebody from on the dredging for the yacht club?
You read the letters.
Yeah, read the.
Oh, I'll keep it like that.
Actually, I got a letter, so I have to.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm Jack Evans, Boston Street here in Guilford. I'm a member of the Guilford Yacht Club on the board, and I'm one of the members of the Dredging and Environmental Committee at the Yacht Club. The permit you have, or the application for special permit, is regarding dirt, so we get to talk about dirt tonight, or talk dirt. We are requesting approval of the Unit Owners Association at the Guilford Yacht Club's application under special permit number 273.66 for earth removal operations. Tonight's presentation is focused on material placement on property, specifically because that section also covers placement of property on the placement of material on the property, and we want to make sure that we get that step first before we do anything on removal. It is an existing dewatering site, and we'll go through all that right now. The placing, you have all the details on the location of the property. I won't go through that again. Special notice to adjoining landowners was put in place. We mailed a letter certified as we're supposed to do. There were 20 letters sent out. We got no responses to those letters of application as far as either for or against. I should say we got lots of fors, no against. Tonight we have several people, or I should say the special permit complies with the requirements as noted in section 273.68. Conditions for approval. We believe our presentation, what we have, will meet those conditions. The support for this proposal is here. We have Mr. Tom Stevens of Stevens Associates, who's the civil engineer and of record, and is the team that put together our application, our chart, our drawings, and the application supporting the effort. We also have representatives of the Marina Commission here, and we have several neighbors and members of the Dredging and Environmental Committee. So why do we need this application? Well, basically the West River is not a federally mandated waterway. But it's a valuable Guilford recreational, environmental, and commercial resource. The combination of the upland soil flowing down the river and this continual salt marsh erosion causes the material to silt and collect inside the river and the basin. We have to remove that on an annual basis simply because we cannot maintain an operational and safe channel and West River through the year if we don't. We've been doing this for over 30 years. And we are permitted to do this by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Connecticut DEP. We've maintained those permits for over 30 years, and we are once again permitted to do our dredging through hydraulic process on upland spoils this year, and that's what we're asking for. The this hydraulic method is a long-standing, it's basically been used for a long time. It's been utilized by us and as others around town. There's been several Guilford town projects that have been conducted with hydraulic dredging. It's proven, we know what to do with it. It has several pluses to it, if you will. This process itself is relatively simple. It's basically a floating dredge with a very strong pump on the end of it. That pump sucks up the material off the river bottom along with a lot of water, blows it through a pipe or sends it up through a pipe to an upland storage area. And the upland storage area, we dewater or push the material in the slurry through a big, I'll call it net bag,
That net bag retains all the solids and lets the water drain through. The water that drains through is collected in a well-controlled basin and then discharged in a controlled manner back down to the river. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward process. What we need tonight is the application for the site approval to put the material there. The equipment that we use is GPS controlled, it's sonar directed, it compensates for the tide and has positive pump control. So that allows the operator inside to actually precisely dredge or move the material very precisely and deposit it in a very controlled manner. It also eliminates a big silt cloud under mechanical dredging. Whether they put the clamshell in or mechanical, it explodes the silt. That cloud, if you will, makes it hard to see where you're dredging, where you're removing material. It's somewhat uncontrolled, and then the material that's suspended after the injection of the mechanical settles back in the area you just dredged. So it is the preferred method of both the Army Corps and the Connecticut DEP, which is is prime here. Once this material reaches the geo bags and it's dewatered, the material inside the bags becomes available for repurposing and reuse. And that's what we're looking to do. The geo bags are placed in a well-engineered dewatering site located at the north end of the marina. The site itself is designed and engineered to allow the geotubes to control the water runoff and wetland erosion. During the operation, the water is tested as required by the DEP, and all portions of the operation are monitored. At the conclusion of the operations, the area that returns water will be closed off so casual water doesn't go back down to the river. So all of those things are in place. Before Tom Stevens speaks, I'd like to note a couple of things. Because the Guilford Yacht Club removes material every year, we are very active in the pursuit of the best practices of dredging, environmental, and restoration areas along the shoreline. We regularly meet with people such as the Land Trust, the Nature Conservatory, Marina Commission, the Connecticut DEP on a regular basis, Shellfish Commission, and Shoreline Marinas for these efforts. So we're well tested when we do this. And it should be noted we are doing this all as a volunteer basis. We do want to acknowledge the help of the town. We had several meetings with George Kroll, Jim Portley, Dennis Johnson, and Kevin McGee to develop the site plan you'll see tonight from Tom. They've been most helpful and most gracious with their time. So I'll let Tom take over.
Thank you, Jack. For the record, I'm Thomas A. Stevens. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor. My office is at 141 Durham Road in Madison. I'm here on behalf of the Yacht Club. You pass these two left. Passing out 1117 for the reductions of what I have on the easel. These are full-size plans for. These are stealable. The little ones are not. They're just for reference. Just have to take one and pass it out. Jack's put parentheses around what we're intending to do, and what I'd like to do is just talk very briefly about the coastal resources, the construction sequence, and then answer any questions that you folks have relative to the dewatering. The site's on the west side of Whitfield Street. It's in an MR1 zone. is 20.96 acres. We are here, as Jack has said, for a coastal site plan application, a site plan application, and a special permit. The plans and applications are for approval to place dredged material on an existing dewatering location on the yacht club property. We're requesting a 5-year permit to allow for dewatering of dredged materials on an annual basis. He's talked about the Corps and the DEP approvals. The coastal resources are a coastal hazard, which is a flood zone AE12 to the north, a flood zone VE13 to the west. The deposit itself is in an X zone. The coastal waters adjacent are the West River. It shows better on the small map at the bottom left corner. It's more of an overall view. Developed shorefront, which is the yacht club property itself. Tidal wetlands, which are delineated along the west and north side of the plans. And shorelands, which are also the X zones, which are the 100 and the 500-year flood zones. The deposition of water of dredgings is to happen between March 1st and April 20th. The construction of the dewatering area as shown will precede that. The intent is to operate 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. The first sheet is an existing conditions map. It shows existing berms in red, an existing sluiceway, and a pipe that goes westerly to the West River. The second sheet is proposed conditions. Existing berm, once again, is shown in red. Portion in the interior is to be removed. Purple portion is to be constructed. The berm adjacent to the tidal wetlands, because of the proximity, portion of that berm will be constructed with these existing with proposed geotubes. They'll not only be used for dewatering, but also to construct the berm itself. Kevin McGee had written a letter requesting stone check dams down the 15-foot wide sluiceway, and at the end of construction, we'd close this entire bermed area off so water doesn't migrate down the sluiceway. The construction sequence would consist of installing the erosion control devices. I haven't shown them all on here, but there'd be silt fence entirely around the proposed berm area, none of the silt fence in the tidal wetlands itself. There'd be silt fence on the landward side or on the south side of the berms also. At proposed plunge pool, we would do staked straw bales. That's now in vogue instead of hay bales, because hay bales bring seeds with them, so now it's staked straw bales and filter fabric fencing. The geotubes would be placed on top of existing geotubes. They start out, I am told, 5 feet in diameter or height. They're bigger, but you cannot physically fill them bigger than that. They start out 5 feet and not in diameter and height. It's a big, there's a detail at the bottom of page 3. These, they can't fill to their full potential, but they're filled during the dredging operation to a height of 5 feet with water and silt. As it gets dewatered, that'll end up being 4 feet in height. We're proposing 2 courses of geotubes. So the final elevation will be at approximately elevation 25. It's going to depend upon the final measurements of those tubes. The existing tubes will get sistered up with new tubes. The area to the northwest is going to be shaped to be a new dewatering area that will receive its first layer of tubes. It'll be preceded with a second layer, so there'll be 2 new layers of geotubes on the entire site. The intent is to dewater approximately 16,000 yards of material from the river. Jack has mentioned they get cut open, the top layer gets cut open at the end of the dredging operation. By then, there's been rainfall events on the tubes. The top portion of the soil is fresh water because it's been flushed with rainwater. It then can be seeded, or very often it'll be naturally covered just by seeds that end up on there. That would stay in place until a future operation where the fill would be moved somewhere else. The sluiceway is geotextile fabric. It's 3% grade. I computed the velocity at 3 feet per second. The plunge pool will help still that water. What's coming out of these tubes is 99% free of silt. There's exhibits. I talked to Jack prior to the meeting about exhibits. I believe all the exhibits are in your file, including a letter from Megan Raymond. Kevin McGee has written a letter, I think today's date, and I think there's letters of support from the neighbors. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have regarding the operation. Yes?
So there's existing geotubes there now. You're
Yes.
putting these on top.
Yes.
Long-term, is it going to go away, or will it stay there forever and act as a foundation for further development of the site?
They do this annually, so what's going to happen is this will have to all be emptied, sold, moved off-site, requiring new permits to go somewhere, and then this operation will happen again and again, year after year, emptied, refilled.
There are existing geotubes there now, though.
Yes.
So were they going to go away, or?
They're all going to go away.
Oh, you
Over
build
time.
up a,
Yeah, if you will, that all this material becomes recyclable or reusable, the material that's there currently, and the material we're going to be putting on. We want to basically cycle it all the way through, so, cycle it every year and replace it, cycle it and replace it. And that's the preferred method. Yeah.
where would something like that go?
Well, that's why we're having this meeting tonight. We have to first get it there. There's a number of places that wish it, including the town. The town has interest in the material too.
What would they do with it?
Well, there's 4 projects they have in mind.
None you'd want to share?
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to. We've been chatting with Jim Portley, and he's highlighted several, and they're all, the nice thing about it, they're all shoreline projects, which means the material can go there straight away without any issues.
Good, good, thank you.
How long is the operation to last from start to finish? About a month and a half?
No.
Okay.
No, we're hoping, as we have it calculated right now, if we don't have, and I'll call it bad weather, operational days, we're looking somewhere between 24 and 28.
So about a month.
Yeah, about a month.
I heard him right, it was about 12 hours a day.
Well, remember, we're saying 12 hours. The first hour or two, and at the beginning of the day and the end of the day are make ready and go away. So make ready, we got to get the machinery up and running and let it warm up. We can't operate the pump until the diesel's warm, that type of thing.
How loud is the operation?
That was one of the things we really have researched. This particular piece of equipment is one of the latest Caterpillar diesels, which is highly muffled, and the pump itself is underwater, so it's rather quiet. So we don't, but it's going to be, we're on a water environment, so sound does carry, but it's awful quiet, besides we've been on.
Does anyone else use the river for any reason but you? In other words, like, will your operations interfere with other people's use of the river?
Couple things on that. First off, there's a notice to mariners prior to, it's all part of the permitting process. So we give notice to mariner when we're going to be in operation and for how long and what day and all that sort of stuff. And for most operations, somebody can get by, without, there's a little bit of a hassle because we're going to have pipe in the river, but they can get by. So they are operation. We don't close the river.
You were asking if anybody is using the river?
Right, like boats go up and down past there.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, we're trying to do this early in the season before there's activity. That's the idea. We don't want to,
When is it proposed to be done?
as soon as we possibly can.
March 1st.
March 1.
Well, any questions, any comments, you're gonna have to wait, and then you have to come up and do it, name and address for the record. We gotta get you on camera. This is a public hearing, sorry about that.
Well, we're just going to answer his question.
Okay, you gotta wait though.
Okay? Any other? Fire away. I'll help out.
Could you open your, give me that letter? So,
I'll read this one in. This is
Yep.
from Kevin McGee.
Why don't you let him read his first, and then you read the town one.
right, and the reason I'm reading it this way is I received a letter from an interested party by email, and whenever any of us receive any communication in private, we always share it with the commission. And so we're getting that letter right now. Maybe. No, he can do it. I have faith.
Yeah, you can read it.
I can
mean,
read
a
that.
little
I
bit
can read
larger
that. Thank you
you.
for making it so large. So this is addressed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's from Rich DiNardo, and it's in regards to the matter before us right now. And it says, "Dear Commissioners, as a former member of the Guilford Harbor Management Commission and as a former dredging committee chairman of the Guilford Yacht Club, I respectfully urge you to vote in favor of the permits and approvals requested by the Guilford Yacht Club for the ongoing dredging operation. The hydraulic dredging method currently used by the GYC is vital not only to the survival of the navigation channel and all the water-dependent businesses on the West River, but also to the salt marsh restoration project actively being pursued by the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection, Energy and Environmental Protection under their Living Shorelines program." This method is actually a very old one, having been used to create much of the Guilford Yacht Club site decades ago and was subsequently abandoned in favor of legally dumping the dredged material into the Long Island Sound, currently the only alternative. The EEP wishes to use the historically clean soils dredged up in the Guilford Yacht Club to raise the level of the surrounding salt marshes to halt their erosion. The first step in this process was for the DEP to permit the GYC to hydraulically dredge and place the dredged soil on a portion of the Guilford Yacht Club site already in pre-existing use as a dredging soil site for decades. The second phase will be the DEP-approved plan to spread the highly fertile dredged soil onto the surrounding salt marshes instead of stockpiling on land. Guilford Yacht Club has met one of the stringent requirements of the DEP laid out when it granted the Guilford Yacht Club permits for the dredging phase of the salt marsh restoration project. I believe the DEP's criteria in granting the existing permits are fully in harmony with the town's goals. In addition to the benefits, the beneficial environmental effects of the Guilford Yacht Club dredging project, it is crucial to the survival of every water-dependent use, recreational and commercial in the West River, including the Guilford Yacht Club itself, which is one of the largest taxpayers in the businesses in town. Currently, Guilford Yacht Club members alone voluntarily pay a huge cost of keeping the navigation channel open to the West River. Normally, the maintaining of navigation channels is an exclusively governmental responsibility. If the Guilford Yacht Club were rendered unable to continue finding alternative, innovative ways, new ways to keep the channel and the boat basin clear of the soils eroding from the marshes, it would eventually cease to exist, endangering all of the other nautical businesses in the West River. This would be an incalculable loss to the salt marsh environment, to the Guilford taxpayer, and to the distinctive marine character of our town. I therefore urge you to approve the Guilford Yacht Club applications. Rich DiNardo, 26 River Street, Guilford, Connecticut. So that came to me, it came to another commissioner, and now it's in the public record.
Thank you very much.
Josh, you got other letters? I got another letter.
I think you probably want to read that one.
So we have Carol Szymanski of the Connecticut DEP, and it's addressed to the Planning and Zoning Commission in regards to coastal site plan review of upland disposal of dredged material at 379 Whitfield Street, Guilford Yacht Club. As the applicant, dear commissioners, thank you for referring this coastal site plan review received December 22nd, 2017 for us to review and comment. Project description. Our office will review a certificate of permission application at the site in regards to continued marina maintenance, dredging, and upland disposal of dredged material. We would be happy to provide the commission with a copy of our permit once it's been issued. There's no question, I guess. In general, we support beneficial reuse of dredged materials and commend the application the applicant for reserving upland area for this necessary activity. Many marinas do not have the land area to dedicate to this activity. Conclusion, we hope that these comments are helpful to the Commission pursuant to CGS Section 22A 110. They request that these comments be read into the record of the public hearing for this application. If we can be of further assistance to you in this or any other coastal management or Long Island Sound related matter, please feel free to contact her. And she lists her phone number. That's Carol Zismansky of the Connecticut DEEP, Office of Long Island Sound Programs, Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse.
Thank you.
We got another one here from a memo from Mr. Portley, and it basically says that the work and research done has gone into development and dredging of the dewatered soil and sand silt that repeatedly restricts use in the West River and the Yacht Club Basin is remarkable. This application, a process developed, has been promised and should be encouraged. I recommend that the Guilford Yacht Club application be approved.
Yeah, Jim Portley.
There's a letter here from Kevin McGee also dated today. The Guilford Yacht Club is looking to pump dredged material into geotech dewatering tubes located in a soil berm area. The Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has issued a certificate of permission for the dredging work on November 18, 2014. An extension of the certificate of the permission was issued on February 7, 2017. The filtered water is designed to flow back to the West River through a plastic line sluiceway located along the southwest side of the berm. Following the dewatering activities, a berm will be installed at the entrance of the sluiceway. The project has erosion control design to protect the coastal resources, which consist of silt fencing installed between the containment berm and the adjacent tidal wetlands. Additional controls were placed in the sluiceway consisting of silt fence, Stone Creek check dams, plunge pool, and silt fence with stacked hay bales. With the erosion control in place, the dewatering activities would have a minor impact of sedimentation and entering the adjacent coastal resources, which consist of tidal wetlands and the West River. In order to make sure the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. First, the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work, which includes dewatering. Second, once dewatering activities have been completed, a berm shall be installed at the entrance of the sluiceway, and the town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the berm. You are going to be using straw instead of hay bales? Is that okay? And I don't think Kevin cares about that. No, I'm sure. He had a different. And you don't care about the two conditions Kevin imposed upon you?
I do not, actually, by construction sequence. The first one was notify ZEO for inspection prior to starting construction, and at the end, it was install berm at the top of the sluiceway, call the zoning enforcement officer for final inspection. So I capped that with his two.
Yeah. And we're required to do that under the Connecticut DEP anyway.
Great.
We have a couple other letters. I don't know if they're in your packet. We have one from the Natural Diversity Database. Do you have that one? And the significant, this is from Dawn McKay, the Environmental Analysis 3. She is, I won't read the whole thing, but the pertinent line in paragraph 1 is, I do not anticipate negative impacts to the state-listed species. RSCSA section 26-306, resulting from your proposed activity at this site based upon the information contained within the NDDB permit. So we have that, copies for you on that. I believe I think you should have the Malone McGrew letter. If not, it's in this packet. It's from Megan. You have that? It's from Megan Raymond, and on her left, it's a 7-page document. I'll read the last page, the conclusion, last paragraph. Basically, MMI completed a consistency review regarding the proposed expansion of existing dewatering area adjacent to the Guilford Yacht Club. Project is necessary maintenance activity authorized under state and federal permits. The dewatering expansion
will take place within a disturbed upland area and will be bounded by siltation and erosion controls to prevent impacts on adjacent coastal resources, resiliency, and no adverse impacts will result from the proposed project. Should you have any questions or comments regarding this review or our conclusions, please do not hesitate to contact me. That's, you don't want to hear 7 pages.
That's up to the applicant. If you don't feel like you adequately entered the information, I'll certainly read it in for you.
Do you have to read it in, or?
No, I mean, is it represented appropriately?
I think it is.
All right.
Okay, and just, I think and the last letter we have, and you may just have gotten that, is from Dave North, who's a former planning and zoning. Remember, you guys all have his letter?
Yeah, it was received today.
Okay. Do I need to read that, or do you?
He's an adjacent property owner who owns Brown's Boatyard, who is in support. His conclusion is that the Guilford Yacht Club is a very good neighbor, very good for the community, very good for the boating community. Dependent on regular dredging to be able to thrive and survive, our local government should support this request so they can continue to be one of the pearls of Guilford. That's the summary, and it's very detailed. I don't know if you all read it, but it's in support of this and how it is very important.
One of the things that Dave has been very active with us is that we've been tapping his knowledge on coastal resiliency, erosion, and that sort of thing. He's a member of the planning and zoning. He did a lot of work on this many years ago and for many years. He's also in the Shellfish and the Harbor Management Commission, so he's well versed on it. He knows the subject, and he's been brutal on our approaches, so we're kind of doing it right now. Any other questions?
Bill, anything from the commission here on questions? Rich, you okay?
Motion to continue?
No, I'm gonna let the public, if they want to ask anything yet. So, I just want to see if Rich is okay. You got anything else? No.
I'm actually impressed. It's very good.
All right.
Very thorough.
From the public now, would you like to ask a question at this point? Yeah, just please come up with name and address for the record.
My name is Biff Cuthbert. I live on 44 Talia Ridge. I'm your neighbor. I received a letter. I have the land, salt marsh that runs roughly from, do you have the?
The small one down there, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm on the other side. It runs from somewhere around here to up to Dave North,
To the bridge.
John Dew, not to the bridge.
No, okay.
Yeah. So I have that salt marsh.
One more there if you want to,
Yeah.
if that helps.
Well, it's pretty much right across from here to here. I didn't hear if you said when startup is?
Hopefully March 1.
No, I meant timing in the morning.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Yeah, when do you begin ready to go and
Well, we
go?
really can't start until we have some daylight, so it's probably around 7.
7, yeah, that's what it's been usually.
Yeah.
Okay, and go away is what time?
Sundown.
Sundown.
Just prior to sundown.
Okay.
We have to use, we don't want our guys operating at night.
Right. I don't think this is something that goes to this permit with the town, but I got here late. Was there anything said about any heavy metals testing that had been done either prior or during the 5-year permit? That would probably be under the...
Well, it's all under the DEP permitting.
DEP.
And it's been done for 30 years.
And they've been addressing that every...
Yeah, there's so much, best way to answer you, there's so much material that comes down and we remove it every year.
Right.
If there was any problems, we know about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, okay.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if I had any other questions. I know. This is a revised set of maps on the 26th, and the ones before were the 10th. What was revised? Why were they changed? Do you?
We met with the town. We've had, maybe 4 or 5 meetings with you guys in the last few weeks to make sure that we comply with town requirements. And basically, we kept updating the plans to address that.
Okay.
So the basics are still there.
Right.
And they should be the same, if you will.
Okay.
The footprint is the same.
That's what I thought. Okay. I think that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, would anybody like to speak in favor of the application at this point? Come on up.
My name's Bernard Lombardi. I reside at 70 Reeves Avenue, and I'm chairman of the Guilford Marina Commission. And I have a letter that the commission approved at its Monday night's meeting. Dear commission members, the Marina Commission operates a self-sufficient marina entity requiring no funding from the town. The Guilford Marina was voted by the Shoreline Times readers as the best municipal marina in a Connecticut clean marina, and is also one of the smallest marinas in Connecticut, directly on Long Island Sound. At the special meeting held February 5th, 2018, the Commission unanimously voted to support the application of the Guilford Yacht Club for the on-land placement and removal of dredged soil on the existing DEEP permitted dewatering location on the Guilford Yacht Club property. The Marina Commission recognizes the importance of maintaining navigable waterways along the Guilford shoreline and commends the Yacht Club for its efforts to provide water-related facilities for local and state residents. Over the last several months, the Yacht Club has invited representatives from the Marina Commission to join the club's dredge subcommittee meetings to witness firsthand the research to obtain the best and safest process for dredging the West River and the Club Basin and depositing the dredged spoils. That process has been a good source for the Marina Commission in its own process for maintenance dredging the town's Marina Basin and the Army Corps of Engineers Guilford Harbor Federal Entrance Channel. The Guilford Marina Commission is in favor of the Yacht Club's application and recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the special permit, coastal area management, and site plan applications proposed by the Guilford Yacht Club. Signed by me. The commission members are Henry Graver Jr., Al DiMaggio, Roger Selix, Michael Crossley, and Cliff McGuire. Henry Graver was not at that meeting, but the remainder of the commission members and the alternates were and voted unanimously.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor at this time?
Good evening. Hank Robinson, owner, operator, Brown's Boatyard, 348 Chavintown Road. Guilford Yacht Club is doing nothing but great things here. They're maintaining their property, which is, what we want in this town, and they're maintaining the channel. They are the only reason that we can access the West River. My business depends on it. Bayberry Creek depends on it. Guilford Boatyards depends on it, and it brings a lot of good economy to our town on the weekends and in the summer. This is the first and continuing step towards the erosion problem we have. In the 20 years that I've been working at Brown's Boatyard, the erosion to Chittenden and Chaffin Park is staggering. I've seen it go back 100 feet. That's just in 20 years. These guys want nothing but the best for the West River, Guilford, and their property.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else looking to speak in favor at this time? Anybody looking to speak in opposition? Okay, I think we have to continue.
Second.
You want to add that date in there?
First.
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. Very well presented.
Nice presentation.
Guess who's up again? Guilford Yacht Club.
No.
Request to amend Table 5. This is the second public hearing.
Hi, my name's Tom Davis. I reside on Boston Street. I'm a member of the Guilford Yacht Club and part of the board at the club. And I believe you've received a letter from us with some responses to some questions about the allowing the public to access the restaurant facility at the club.
Yesterday. Okay, so, has anything changed since the first time you were here as far as what the plans are, or any consideration?
No.
Or anything, okay.
Just as outlined in the letter where we've clarified what some of the questions.
Okay. Go ahead and read that while we're
We had one
putting our
from Kevin
thoughts together.
McGee that wasn't entered into the last public hearing. From Kevin McGee dated February 7th today, zoning amendment, addition of a restaurant in the MR zone. The Guilford Yacht Club has proposed a zoning amendment to allow for restaurants to be located in the MR1 zone by special permit. The MR1 zone also includes Brown's Boatyard, Bayberry Creek, and Guilford Boatyards. As noted in Caros's Mansky's of the Connecticut DEEP's letter dated January 9, 2018, locating a restaurant in a water-dependent use diminishes the current marina use as well as future water-dependent use. The current MR1 zoning amendment should be amended to require a restaurant in an MR1 zone to provide a public access component such as waterfront walkways as part of the special permit application.
Thank you.
That was Kevin. Josh, did you want to do that one?
Do you want me to read this into the record, or do you feel?
I mean, it was in the record.
We had this sort of back and forth. Is there anything you want to specifically highlight from your responses here that you think would?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, do we have any questions here?
From a timeline standpoint, when do you foresee bringing the question of the restaurant to the unit owners and potentially then going to the next step?
The decision allows us to consider it. We'd bring that up to our owners this month, the month of February.
I guess my concern is, by making a zoning amendment, it really becomes a permanent thing. And do we want to say that, if it hasn't come to us with a restaurant application within 2 years? Does that make any sense?
I don't know what you're saying, so it's not just out there.
Right, it's just not
in
permanently hanging
perpetuity.
in the wind. I mean, we want to give you the opportunity to do it.
Sure.
But if in fact the unit owners say, good idea, but we don't want to do it,
Right.
that,
Yeah, my take on that is a perfectly reasonable stipulation if you felt necessary to do it.
Like come back in 2 years if it hasn't been through fruition?
Well, okay.
Can we do that, right?
So
Legally, I don't think so.
So for instance,
Amending the regulations and then having like an expiration period after which the amendment goes away. I don't know whether you can do that or not. I mean, obviously, you can go back at any point in time you want to and propose to eliminate that change, and you'd have to have hearings and everything pursuant to that. I don't know whether you can put a sunset on a zoning amendment. That's something we'd have to consult with town council on.
so why would we want to do this? And I'll tell you why I'm asking. So, we have lost an important restaurant that's on the water in our town in the last year or year and a half. And, whenever there's a vacuum in a marketplace, someone's going to rush in to fill it. And I would think it would be great if you guys did it. And if you guys don't do it, then Brown's Boatyard or the other people along the West River should do it immediately so that they can capture the market that's available. Obviously, as you would do it, which would be a classy operation, plenty of room, lots of parking, everything's nice. I'm sure the other places would do it, too. If I owned Brown's Boatyard and we approve this, I would have an application in a week, because our town really needs a restaurant right on the water, another one. We have one and a half, kind of. So, I guess I'm hearing you that you want to have something happen right away. And
no, I'm just, I'd rather not have something just permanently given without kind of plans. I mean, I really would love to see it happen, but if it's not going to happen, then I don't think we really need to change the zoning.
But I think the only way for it to happen is to change the zone.
Sounds that way.
Yeah. Kind of put the cart before the horse if you do it that way.
I would say he needs this to bring to the ownerships
Correct.
to to possibly to get this through.
Right.
Well, I can tell you, I know it doesn't answer your question, but I don't know if we're going to be able to answer that, but, I mean, this addressed all of our concerns that we had and all the discussion, so I'm pretty comfortable as far as that. Do we have any other questions, or you guys want to clarify anything else?
I'm actually good with this.
Alan, you all right?
Can we put time restrictions on like business hours of operation, or is that not necessary?
That would be typically done at the time of the special permit application.
Right, this is just the amendment.
Right. I mean,
They have to
yes.
come back with the,
That is important, that
Maybe
this
at
is
that time.
as opposed to most restaurant applications in under Guilford zoning, those are uses by right. This is a special permit.
And we're very clear on it. I think that what we're looking for is the option to come back with a very defined plan and deal with any kind of rules and restrictions on that. So we're really just looking for the opportunity to present a plan that would be specific on things like hours of operation and seating and so on.
right, because this is just an amendment now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with it from the aspect of having more restaurants. And they gotta come before us anyway, before they can actually do anything at all. So we kinda got this under control anyway. The only thing we're doing is giving the opportunity for somebody who has the land and wants to put a nice unit in. I think it would be advantageous for the town and the people in the town. I think it's gonna draw more people in the summer, and that's the thing we wanna do. We need income, and we need it. So as long as we have them coming in with their plans, we're gonna be okay with this, so I don't have any problem with it at all.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions here? Okay, this is the last public hearing, so I'll ask for questions. Still come up so they can get you on the camera, please.
Jack Evans again with the Guilford Yacht Club, Boston Street. Kevin McGee's comment about a public access, there's two things in play here. Number one, the original, I'll call it deed or operation for the yacht club did require public access, and in conjunction with the DEP, that was taken away about 20 years ago. The reason for it is with a couple of some problems with it without getting into details. DEP agreed to allow the yacht club to do other things with the funding that was available to put in public access. Second thing that's happening is that we're speaking with the town, specifically Jim Portley, about other uses for the public access on adjacent property as well as ours. So there are all those things already in play. Okay.
Do you have a problem with us including in our amendment that there should be public access component?
Well, the difficulty with it is with all public access, and I'll say on our private property, is one of liability, on who's going to absorb the liability since it isn't town property. So that, until that's addressed, I would suggest that maybe you have us come back and say, okay, here are the options that we could have for public access that involve maybe town property as well as our own, and those options. Because until they're addressed, it's going to be tough.
Any application in the future for a restaurant would also be a coastal site plan. Coastal site plans for non-water dependent uses, and restaurants are defined as non-water dependent, require that you identify some element of the plan that makes it water dependent or provides, in this particular case, access to the coastal resources. So you would be required to, in order to find the application consistent with coastal management policies, you'd be required to look at the possibilities for creating public access. Now, in the case of a restaurant, it's a little bit of an anomalous situation. That's not really the right word, because by definition, a restaurant is a place of public accommodation and assembly, and people there will be there. The public will be able to patronize the restaurant, whenever the restaurant operating hours are, and they will, in all likelihood, given this particular site, want to take advantage of the fact that the property is located, that the restaurant is located in such a way as to look out over the marshes and the water. So I think almost by definition, a restaurant will provide public access to the coastal resource, a public restaurant, as opposed to today, when there is no public use of the yacht club at all, except perhaps when they have a public event, like some kind of a wedding or charitable event or benefit at the yacht club.
I've got a question, George. You know the answer to this. I don't know it. The town owns some landlocked land over there. Is the yacht club adjacent to that? In other words, if the yacht club were so kind as to find a way to let the people of the town of Guilford actually use their land that they own but can't get to, would that count towards public access?
I'm not sure.
Without any liability on your part?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question.
In other words, like right now, we own this beautiful.
Property we call Page's Lane.
Yeah.
The only access point is from their property.
No, the access to Page's Lane is, if you're talking about vehicular access, is via the road that goes to the yacht club. That road is actually owned by the owners of the Aero Paving property. The yacht club has a deeded right to use that property to access their land. That road also provides access to the town-owned, quote-unquote, Page's Lane property. So you don't have to traverse yacht club property to get to town-owned Page's Lane property, if that's what you mean.
Where would you put your car?
On the town property?
No, like, if I wanted to go walk on the town property that we can't right now.
Yeah.
Where would I put my car?
You'd have to park somewhere on Whitfield Street and then walk down the road, which is also called Page's Lane by most people, that goes toward the yacht club. Before you get to the yacht club, on the south side or the left-hand side is the town-owned Page's Lane property.
Is it clearly marked? Like, if I
No.
go there tomorrow, will I be able to go there?
No, I mean, it's not marked as town-owned land. It's also overgrown with brambles and other, undesirable vegetation, but that is the access. It's not over yacht club property.
Right, but they have parking.
So let me ask you.
You would not be allowed to park on the yacht club property.
Is this putting the cart before the horse here? Because
Is what?
talking about this public access, because really that's, right now this is the amendment.
It's, Kevin's recommendation, in my opinion, is redundant, because you already have the, I almost say obligation to require public access when a non-water dependent use is proposed in the coastal area, which a restaurant would be, even though in reality, a public restaurant, by its definition, is open to the public.
So that means that they don't actually have to provide public access. So
And the exact nature of the public access for the restaurant would be defined at the time the application for the restaurant is actually made. Clearly, in all likelihood, they would have, for example, outside dining. I mean, you would think, given the property and what it looks like, and the people eating there would, have the benefit of looking out over the marshes and the other coastal resources. It would be undesirable to allow the public to walk down to the boats, just like at the Guilford Marina. The public is not permitted to walk to the actual docks. Only slip owners or renters are allowed to do that. Similarly, that's the case at the yacht club. So you wouldn't want the public to be walking down around the boats for liability and other reasons, but you would want to allow them to walk around the upland area where the restaurant is going to be located and the outside dining area is, so that they can in fact enjoy the resources there. That's the whole point of it.
Okay. Thanks, George. So any more questions at this point from commission? Feels good. Everybody's good? All right. From the public? Anybody have any questions? And same thing, still name and address again.
William Cuthbert, 44 Talia Ridge. Sorry. On the aspect of public access for the restaurant, wouldn't the restaurant want the possibility of people coming in by boats, if possible? Would they encourage that or not? Does the yacht club have a a transit dock or anything like that?
Yeah, the club now allows transient overnight dockage, and a boat can contact us, book that, come in and use one of the slips, subject to availability. And in the case of somebody contacting us to come in by boat to patronize the restaurant during the hours that it's open, again, subject to availability, that would be an option, or it might not if there's no open space.
So it wouldn't be like you have, and I haven't been there, so I don't know, so forgive me for not knowing. But it wouldn't be like someone's out on the Sound and says, hey, you know what, there's that nice marina over in Guilford. I'd like to stop off for lunch or a dinner. Can I just go up the West River and dock? It's not, you'd have to make
I think you find in almost any facility that's sort of in a marina, whether it's the Boom or the restaurant at Bruce and Johnson's and so on, the sort of need to contact the facility and make sure that there's a space available. You really can't assume at any of these places that it's necessarily going to be a space available. But it's very common practice for people to contact our club and other places by radio and by phone now and check and see if there's room available. If there is, they'd be advised that there is, and they'd be told where to come and greeted at the dock when they arrive. If there's not, they'd be told there's just simply no room.
So, to answer your question from last time, it's in here on comment 10 about transient boats being allowed to dock for purpose of eating. In any case, transient boats must be safely docked rather than lined up. So that kind of avoids that, let's pull 18 boats in there and go sit at the bar and drink.
And how many transient docks do you currently have?
During the summer, we typically would have space for 8 or 10 or 12 boats on the average weekend to get a transient slip. That's not guaranteed. And then club members, if they're not at their dock for a week because they're off on a cruise or somewhere else with their boat, they advise our dock staff and our club manager that their slip could be made available. So it's variable.
Answer your question?
Yes, I think I was thinking more of kayaks and skiffs coming in rather than any kind of big boats.
Well, again,
That's what we used to do over the moorings.
people are welcome to contact the dockmaster's office and arrange for space to be subject to availability, whether they're coming in a kayak or a center console boat or a boat larger than that. There's going to be limitations how big the boats can be because there's limitations how big a boat can fit on our dock. There's not a lot of limitations how small a boat can fit. So.
Did you have a question?
It just went back fleeting out of my mind. It just had to do with it. You're not going to get, you will get a few people that may say, oh, let's try this out, but you're not, and if it's really good, you might have reservations from months in ahead.
We'd be pleased if sometimes that happens. It wouldn't be our expectation,
Again,
but we'd hope to have
we're just getting
good
back
word
to
of mouth.
We're just getting back to the fact that we just need to take care of this thing on table 5.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Somebody want to make a motion here to close?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor? Guess what?
One more time.
One more time. Guilford Yacht Club.
What is it now? 2 sheds.
There are a couple sheds here.
There are a couple letters.
Do you want to just start reading the letters?
Sure, please.
All right, this is from James Portley, dated today. The 2 sheds are located in an AE flood zone as non-residential structures. The concerns are stability and ability to allow flood waters to enter and then drain away through flood vents. If approved by the commission, it is noted that the plans for anchoring the structures and provisions for placement of flood vents in the sheds will be required as part of the building permitting process. Okay. So, do you have a problem with that?
No.
And then this one is from Dennis Johnson, it's also dated today. The applicant's proposed storage sheds do not conflict with the location or operation of existing septic systems serving the Guilford Yacht Club. Great. That's that.
Okay.
That's from today.
Phil?
I would suggest that we put some type of a time limit on when the building permit should be taken out, like within 30 or 60 days.
Yeah, in as much as Mr. Portley has said that in his letter, he's noting that these provisions should be in place in order to make these safe in as much as they're in an AE flood zone. ordinarily, that's not the business of the Planning and Zoning Commission, but he made it our business by putting this in here. So I would feel comfortable with a 60-day time limit for them to getting building permits so that we know that these are safe.
How long would it take you to take out, do you need 90 days, do you need 60 days, do you need 30 days? What would you feel comfortable with getting?
I'll take your offer of 90.
Okay. Sounds good.
A little horse trading action.
Phil, Rich, you guys okay?
You don't want to go 120?
Do you need 120?
I mean, Josh,
Do I hear 120?
120?
I mean, it literally takes about
Sure, 90 won't,
10 minutes.
90 would be great. I'm sure we'll do it much sooner, but it is all volunteer horsepower. We have a few other things that are on the plate, but we'll certainly do it well within that. I don't know if we want to do that.
It's 3 months.
90 days is good for me.
Any other comments or questions at this time?
Have they suggested to you what would be involved in terms of engineering the buildings for resistance to flotation?
I believe that the larger of the two sheds, which we had the professionally sort of strapped down into the ground when it was installed, is okay. And I think what the intention would be is to have a similar arrangement on the smaller of the two sheds, which is not in place now. It's my understanding that that's the thing we'll need to make sure is part of that picture of how that's all put together.
Did you bring that up with Mr. Portley?
I believe so.
So then, if Mr.
This was
Portley
discussed
says,
at a staff meeting. There were several different options how this might be done. Discussed. The reason Portley didn't recommend a specific method was if the building permit is required, then that's when the applicant could propose how they might do it, and then the engineering department could evaluate whether that was an appropriate technology or technique and issue the permit based on that. So there'd be some give and take there.
So is a building permit required?
Well, these buildings already exist, so it's kind of, this is a little bit, as someone said before, putting the cart before the horse. But that's why it would be appropriate, I think, for you to make it totally clear that as part of your condition, you are requiring that they take out a permit, and that at the time they address the questions or the points that Mr. Portley raised as part of the building permit process.
Got it.
John, I've got a question. And I know that you've already expressed your intention of storing like pretty innocuous things, ores, storing safe things, just ores and things. But if we give this permit, potentially, we're sort of saying use them for storage. I guess I would be concerned that somewhere, like 15 years from now, someone says, hey, we need to store some supplies, something bad.
Uranium.
Yeah, some uranium. So, how can we gain a sense of comfort that they're not going to, I know it's common sense, you're in a flood zone, you don't want to put something bad there, because if there's a flood, it's going to wash wherever. So how make me feel good. How do I?
Certainly, I'm prepared to say clearly that the use that we have been putting the sheds has been, consistent with what we're required to do by our insurer and so on, which is not store flammable goods and explosive goods or anything like that. We would obviously fully intend to continue doing it that way. We have a club manager whose responsibility is to make sure that we're doing things according to the requirements we have for insurance liability and so on, and we do.
I'm sure they have control over that. I'm sure they're not going to allow things to be in there that wouldn't.
Yeah, one would hope.
That would make good sense.
Good.
All right, I'm going to ask the public now if they have any questions. Okay, does anybody like to speak in favor of this application? Or against? Okay. Somebody?
Move it close. Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, let's keep moving then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Going to get an approval?
Second.
Application that Rich read, that's not on today's agenda. I mean, that's to
Which
be,
one?
That's actually to be received, the DeBoer one. Somehow it got on the public notice. We haven't even received it yet, actually. Yeah, so you're ready to go forward with action.
He read it early.
Did we approve the revised agenda?
Yes, we did. So let's deliberate.
Voted that the Guilford Planning Zoning Commission approve an amendment to the zoning code to revise Table 5, Line 27 to allow restaurant I'm in the wrong one.
No, you're fine.
First time.
You're doing good.
By special permit and MR1 zone. The amendment is approved based upon the finding that the change be consistent with the plan of conservation and development and encourage public access and use to the coastal area of Guilford. The amendment is effective February 16th, 2018, upon the filing with the town clerk.
Second.
Okay, we have a discussion. I think that we've talked about this in length. I think it makes sense.
I had one comment.
Shoot.
I don't really see the harm in putting in there that we want public access to the waterways, because with all the marinas involved in this, it would be a nice ability to give the town that. We are giving them sort of an advantage, a competitive advantage, by allowing them to have food here. And the fact that George is absolutely correct, that I think that pursuant to the application that they would have to bring, looking at, the waterway as a usage, the restaurant, I think would satisfy that. So I don't think that that is a safeguard for us to make this requirement. And then they can build the restaurant if they can figure out a way to give us waterway access, or they don't need to build the restaurant.
Well, to that point, our friends that bought the,
Yeah, exactly. They said that they were going to give us this access to the waterway, and I don't know. I have not been down there.
I've been down there.
You tell me, is there nice access to the waterway?
it's a small little deck, like a little platform, maybe 15 feet by 20 feet. I guess it fulfills the requirement, but, yeah, you can't talk anymore. So I would support that, and again, that can be fine-tuned in the
special permit application. I just think that George is absolutely right, that they're going to be able to say, well, we're giving you a restaurant on the water, so that's the water access.
So you're saying something besides the primary allowance of a restaurant, there should be separate public access provided, whether it's a viewing platform like Pa's Place did,
or even just a designated area for the restaurant goers to just make sure that, because that the view from the inside is not going to be the only public access. And I understand why why the club would be against something like this, if they have liability issues, but I do think at the end of the day, it's probably going to be within.
Let me ask you this, would you put this on a restaurant on the Post Road?
Absolutely not.
So,
because there's nothing to see on the Post Road, though.
Well, no, the reason why, Frank, is because right now, they don't have the ability to put this in the town of Guilford, in this zone.
Right.
Right?
So
So they're coming to us and they're saying, well, we want this. And this is kind of a big deal, allowing restaurants down by the water in this zone. It's
a
gonna,
non-water use.
it's gonna be
and
three,
it's required by
and there's
the
gonna be
state.
3 sites or 4 sites that this could be used on. It's not just one site. And so, I mean, I don't know.
So what
It's
is the
just-
public access, so you're saying that the driveway that's gonna get into it is not enough of a
Well,
public
that's what
access?
I don't know. Maybe that is.
I mean, that's why I'm getting confused. I
Rather
think
than
that
put,
we're-
I'm sorry, rather than put specific language in the zoning code itself with regard to this particular provision for special permit, what I tried to do in the finding was make it clear that part of the reason why you were doing this, making this amendment, is because this amendment will encourage public access to and use of the coastal areas of Guilford. So it's in the finding, it's part of your intent, but it doesn't actually propose, this amendment, this proposed motion doesn't actually propose any specific language in Table 5, at least, to require or encourage public access.
So scan
So-
your memory bank, George. When we when we were working with the applicant for Pa's Place,
Right.
and how did we get to the point where we had public access? Was that in a special permit?
No, that was part of the coastal site plan application. And of course, what happened there was sort of the exact opposite of what we're talking about here. We had a place of public use already. That's what the restaurant was. That's why people were so upset that the restaurant was going away, because it was going to be strictly a private facility, the offices. No one would be allowed to go on that property unless you were doing business with the office. So we required, as we are entitled to, under the provisions of the coastal management law, for a non-water dependent use, like an office, we are obligated to, and we have the authority to require some type of public access. And that's what we did. We required the public viewing area, and we also required that they construct a kayak launch, which took them quite a while to get the permit to do that from DEP, but they are in fact doing that if they haven't already done it. So there are two parts of the public access that were required by your action there because you were going from a clearly public use, a restaurant, to a clearly private use, offices.
Can you tell me what Kevin's rationale was to include this in his comments and why we shouldn't agree with him?
I think I can't tell you what his rationale was.
I didn't know if you had, it seemed like there was lots of meetings, and so I
We
didn't know.
didn't really discuss that specifically.
Because this seems like it's kind of
That was
big.
kind of a last-minute thought on his part. We certainly discussed the idea of public access at the numerous staff meetings we had on this project, and I think we were all pretty clear that if a restaurant, in fact, is developed there, there will be substantially more public access to the area than there is today, because there's zero today. And a public restaurant would definitely satisfy that public access requirement. And the property doesn't really lend itself to, it's not like a beach where you can actually walk down to the edge of the water. It's a marina, and the slips and all of that kind of separate the land area from the water itself. And having a viewing area and using the promenade on top of the property there will satisfy that public access.
Didn't someone say there's a large grass?
There's a big grassy area, which,
So that would be a public access feature.
I'm assuming they would let the restaurant patrons use that, but there's sort of.
they certainly use it now for when you have a wedding or some other kind of
Yeah, that's the
event.
question.
I went through,
special permit.
to back up George, I went back through Carol's letter in the first public hearing about it, and there was public access highlighted like 2 or 3 times in her comments.
Carol also really substantial advice to us in that.
But I think that's where Kevin's,
Right, but, she's saying for a non-water dependent use, then you should do this. And we're sort of saying anyone in this zone can have a restaurant. So it would be in keeping with Carol Zizmansky's first letter, saying we should grant this, but with the provision.
But I think the provision is automatically met by being a public restaurant.
let's wait to see if they come back as a restaurant.
So, okay. We got any more discussion?
Well, is the concern that the restaurant's only going to be accessed via the water, that the yacht club just only wants patrons, the public to access it via the water, or only via the land through the road there? Or I don't understand the concern via public access.
The large majority of patrons at the restaurant will access the restaurant by car, not by water. I think that would be pretty limited, as you
Yeah,
heard.
if you don't open it up to the public and you say you're going to make it a private thing, guess they're going to be out of business fast.
It's not a restaurant then. I mean, that's what they have now.
Right now,
That's what they have now.
Frankly, my only concern would be that they say, okay, no one is allowed to, and I don't think this is what their intentions are, because I don't think it'd be a successful business, but no one is allowed to walk on the grass over there because there's too much of a liability to take in the views, or we're not going to have any picnic benches, or whatever it is. And that would be, and just your only public access is sitting in the restaurant and having a view of the water. And that would sort of be what I would be concerned
I think you
of.
have the ability to require that
In
as
the
part of the
special
special permit, and more importantly, as part of the coastal site plan.
Okay.
I can't imagine them having a restaurant not having access to the public. A restaurant is not going to last long. Anybody with common sense would tell you that you're not going to have a restaurant long if you don't have people coming in there to eat.
And right now, we're only thinking of one site.
And the only thing, the only thing I see where there shouldn't be an access, and I understand that, is down on the boats, down in an area where they're walking across the docks and stuff, like they do at our regular marina. I think that's common sense also. So they're going to close that off, except for people coming in on boats and then walking up and going to the restaurant. So as far as access, I imagine that if you're opening a restaurant, you're going to want access for the people to come and enjoy themselves. If you're going to herd them into the restaurant, they're going to come back once, they're not coming again, because they can do that anywhere. So they're coming there to see the water. You're going to have to use your common sense and be sure that they can use your public area the way they should be able to see it, because that's what they're coming for. If you don't, we won't have a restaurant long.
And George, we're just thinking of one site right now, right? Is there any reason for us to be concerned about public access for the other sites that we won't be able to?
Exact same issues would obtain. I think the other site, practically speaking, notwithstanding Rich's idea that if he owned Brown's Boatyard, he would open a restaurant there. It's a pretty poorly located property to have a public restaurant, and it's also quite constrained.
I just want to make sure that
The same
bias foregoing.
the same thing would apply. Those properties now are not open to the public. If they had a restaurant, they would be.
And the approval does state supply special permit, so do whatever.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to call the vote on the motion that was proposed and seconded. So, all in favor? Any against, any abstain? Okay. Guilford Yacht Club, the storage sheds. Can I get a motion?
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management site plan modification to allow for the installation of 2 storage sheds as shown on an application dated 5th of October 2017 and coastal site plan existing conditions dated 1/10/18 prepared by Thomas A. Stevens and Associates. The application is approved with the following conditions: that the building permits be obtained for the buildings, that the flood proofing of the buildings as described in a memo from the town engineer dated 2/17/18 be implemented, and I'm going to put the condition of 90 days.
You can put that number 1.
Or whatever 90 days is. That's
On
right.
or before 90 days.
Let's put an actual date on it, though.
Say 90 days from the
90
date, from the
days
date of.
May 1st.
May 1st.
I would also add in number 2, the flood proofing and anchoring for flood resistance.
May 9th. Okay.
It would be the night.
Let's make it May 9th.
By May 9th.
Is this application, you want to continue, Richard?
This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
Discussion on this one?
Well, I think that we have the building permit requirement, and that satisfies my concerns.
Ditto.
Okay. Call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, against? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Okay, we got some applications to be received.
Shelley Orstein and Arnold and Aaron Abend, 125 West Lane, map 50, lot 30A, zone R5, coastal area management for grading and landscaping, 27391, receive and set public hearing for 3/7/18. That is a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bork de Boer. Yes. 125-129 Water Street, map 32, lot 17, zone R3, special permit for change in a non-conforming use internet child toddler consignment resale with some retail signs.
Sales.
I don't know what that means. Receive and set public hearing for 2/21 to be continued to 3/7. Okay.
All in favor?
Diego. Tomasi, 6 Guilford Point, map 24, lot 8B, zone R3, special permit and coastal area management revision to the PRD for additions and alterations, 27391, 27319. Receive and set public hearing for 3/7 to be continued to 3/21/18.
All in favor? It's my birthday, by the way, 3/21. Just an FYI.
Mary and Drew Collins, 301 Chapel Land Road, map 23, lot 6, zone R6, special permit, accessory apartment 27319. Receive and set public hearing for 3/7 to be continued to 3/21/18.
All in favor?
Aye.
Stephen Vaga, these names tonight. Vergadamo, 122 Seaside Ave, map 24, lot 5, coastal area management for removal and replacement of a septic system with some site grading, 27391, receive and set public hearing, 32118.
Second.
All in favor?
U-Haul 301 Boston Post Road, map 49, lot 30 and 31, zone T3, special permanent site plan for vehicle rental and self-storage, 27319, 27397, receive and set public hearing for 3/7 to be continued, 32118.
Second.
All in favor? March is going to be packed.
You're going to take that day off.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
That's a lot of bills, you sure? $600
That's a lot of
bucks.
money, we're wasting taxpayer dollars, frankly,
All
we
right?
know it.
All in favor? Did everybody look at the minutes?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as substantially correct.
Second.
Matt, you're our minute guy. Is it good? All right. Does anybody have to abstain from because they weren't there? I was here. All in favor? Yes, go ahead. I haven't
Pleased
closed.
to announce that we have a new zoning officer starting on Monday.
Monday. Who was it?
Erin Mannix is her name.
What was the name?
Erin Mannix.
She was on the planning. Oh, I know.
Yeah, she was on the Table 5 committee. She's formerly a zoning enforcement officer in Norwalk. She lives in Madison.
Great. Good news.
Yep.
Well, congratulations.
All right. Thank you, George. And we'll welcome her at the next meeting.
So
So,
did we approve those minutes?
we did.
Oh, so then I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a great night. Thank you.
Seeing that there's no other business before us.